there are over 1.5 billion Muslims living all around the world. Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, India, Egypt, Pakistan, Lebanon, Somalia, England, Malaysia, Tunisia, China, America.
America?
Yes, America. America, the melting pot, has embraced more than 8 million Muslims in its United States. Who are these 8 million individuals?
My name is Amina Shirani, and I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm an American Muslim.
My name is Kateba Alsai. I'm a United States Park Police officer in Northern Virginia.
My name is Charlene Elder. I sit here in Dearborn as a magistrate in the 19th District Court.
My name is Sayyid Muhammad Saeed. I am the Secretary General of Islamic Society of North America.
My name is Dania Ayubi. I grew up in Indianapolis and currently live in Virginia.
My name is Ramesh Kent. I'm from New York originally. Grew up in Long Island.
My name is Azara Kram. I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm an American Muslim.
These are just a few. They come from all social demographics and contribute to American society in many ways. Many American Muslims were born right here in the United States. Others migrated to America seeking a better life. Sadly, for many people, their notion of who American Muslims are and what they believe in has been tarnished by the tragedy of 9/11.
9/11 was an attack on civilization. 9/11 was an attack on everything good that humanity believes in as good. 9/11 was sickness and pathology. All of us lost, and that loss was a terrible loss. And it's very difficult to talk about it. I think now it's easier for us to talk about it than it was then.
Terrorism is a crime against humanity. It is important to know that Islam, the religion of your neighbors, American Muslims, forbids and condemns such evil acts.
There is no justification in my mind or in my understanding of Islam for what happened on September 11th. No religion, and specifically Islam, will never find an explanation or justification for what the terrorists did on September 11th.
We're just as angry and upset about it as any American would be about what's going on out there. We definitely don't agree with it. And I get a lot from people, especially co-workers, you know, how come leaders in your community don't speak out against it? It's like, well, how many times have you been to my mosque?
And if you're not hearing our leaders speaking out about it, then listen to us.
Listen to us. We're speaking out against it.
9/11 has changed the lives of millions of people, including mine. As an American Muslim citizen, as an activist in the area of civil rights, I had to defend, through my organization, thousands of Muslims who have been mistreated after 9/11. And at the same time, tell the Muslim world to stand with America and Muslims in America by condemning 9/11, the actions of 9/11, and those who were behind it.
For many people, 9/11 has driven home the fact that whether you like it or not, you want to know more about them, whatever that means, Islam and the Muslim world. So how you're going to get beyond those headline events becomes the issue. And I tend to think that the best way to change things is to have more and more opportunities when Muslims and non-Muslims interact in the community. Interact in schools, in jobs, in parent-teacher associations, to the extent that they interact as neighbors, as fellow employees, as fellow citizens. That's where the understanding comes out. Now it's important for Muslims to get out of their ghettos, physically as well as mentally, as well as for non-Muslims to do it.
After 9/11, a lot of people thought being a Muslim in America might be a lot harder, and I really don't see it as being that much different. There's always people who aren't very nice. Sometimes I felt people in the store were more curious. Oh, what are you? You don't fit our stereotype of what a Muslim is because you're white. You're not a brown-skinned person. You don't look angry. You know, so there may be a few more people asking questions, but most of the people that I've met and interacted with have been very concerned and have gone out of their way to say, you know, we know that your average Muslim is not at all violent or interested in terrorism, and that they want to live their lives just like anybody else does, peacefully and happily.
In today's post-9/11 America, Muslims have taken on a new role, bridging the gap between the Muslim world and America, and educating the rest of America about the true and peaceful nature of Islam.
So what does Islam stand for? What are the beliefs and principles of American Muslims?
The Muslims believe that all prophets were manifesting this essential relationship between God and man, which is one of a human being in a state of submission and subservience to God, that frees him from submission and subservience to anything that God created.
Any person who submits to God completely and without associating or equating anyone with God is Muslim.
Americans do look at Islam and look at it as something foreign or ethnic specific, or specifically relating to a certain nationality and race of people. I think that if you look at the Quran, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Noah, and all the Israelite prophets and all the other prophets who are unnamed, who may be of a variety of backgrounds, all of them were quote-unquote Muslim, lowercase m. They were believers in God, believers in that project, the religion project, which is to believe in God and to live a moral life, know that you're going to meet God, and hopefully the outcome in the afterlife will be good for you. That's really the essence of Islam. It's not about the clothes you wear. It's not about the language you speak. It's really about understanding that we have a purpose in this life, and your success is based on how well you fulfill that purpose, not as an Arab, but as a believer in God.
Islam as a way of life is a qualitative term, in that the practitioner of Islam, the Muslim, has certain qualities. In the case of other religions, for the most part, they are taken from the name of their founder, the place, or the people. So for instance, Christ, from that comes Christianity. Zoroaster, from that comes Zoroastrianism. In terms of a place, you have India, Hinduism, the religion of India. And then you have Judea, the place of Judea, Judaism, or the tribe of Judah and Judaism. And so these terms are literally taken from the name of a person or a place or a people. But in the case of Islam, it's not taken from the name of Muhammad. It refers to the qualities that a person who submits to the Creator has. So a Muslim could be any nationality, any race, any color.
Now that we better understand the religion of American Muslims, we understand one part of the equation, the Muslim part. But what about the American part of the equation? Are the ideals of America, democracy, capitalism, civil rights, freedom of religion, one nation under God with liberty and justice for all? Are American ideals compatible with Islam?
There are certain themes within America that I think are very profound, and one of them is that this is a country that was founded with a Bill of Rights. And I personally believe that those rights are very much within the spirit of Islam. And this is one of the few countries in the world where people do enjoy those rights.
The more I live in this country, the more I adapt its values. And I see every day that Islam is very close to the American values, the values of justice, freedom, respect of one another, and sharing, and so on. These are Islamic values, and therefore there is no contradiction between American values, and Muslim values.
I think Muslims will be surprised the similarities between the American ideal and some of the values that Islam has that are time-honored. One of them is a sense of independence. The original founders of Islam were fiercely independent-minded people. They have some of the things that remind me of the founding fathers of America, and I'm not comparing them in terms of their religiosity. But the founding fathers of this country were very independent. They were ready to wage a war to separate from England, and they did. So that independent spirit did not go. I think you still have that here.
I do not believe in any case whatsoever that being a Muslim compromises being an American. I think they're both complementary components. And quite the contrary, they're a complete complement. Democracy, values, family, all the things that we talk about here in a democracy or here in the West are exactly that of Muslims. And as a matter of fact, Muslims are more free here in this country to express themselves as being Muslims than even in the Middle East.
The big problem that Muslims of immigrant experience have in this country is their parents misassociating certain ethics of the Quran, ethics of Islam with the ethnicity. So they, in their attempt to help their kids grow up morally, what they do is strive to preserve the ethnicity that they have and they want to bequeath to you. Unfortunately for the kids, they don't pick up on that. What they get is only a certain sense of Arabness or Indianness, but they forget that there's an overall ethic that they're trying to portray, ethics of being honest, ethics of preserving your chastity, ethics of not lying, of not drinking, staying away from the vices of America. For the immigrants, they basically didn't know how to transplant those ethics to their children.
In order to dive deeper into the melting pot and more fully understand the relationship between Muslims and America, we should know more about the history of Muslims in America. The history of Muslims in America goes back a long way.
Many people may be quite surprised to learn that there were Muslims in the land we now call America before the European explorers, and certainly before the English colonists.
Muslim geographers and historians were mapping the Americas long before Christopher Columbus. In 1513, Piri Reis brought together a number of maps and information from early explorers. And it is shocking to see that he actually has the accurate longitude and latitude. He actually draws a map of the South American coastline. This is in 1513, and Columbus never reached this area. So this is hard evidence of the presence of Muslims long before Columbus. In the 10th century, Al-Mas'udi, who wrote a famous book, Muruj al-Dahab, he described many parts of the world, and he also described America. He called America Ard Majhula, unknown territory. It was in 957 that the oldest map of the Americas was drawn by Al-Mas'udi. This was an age of early contact, and it is well recorded within the books of Islamic history and geography.
America had not even formed as a nation at that time, and already Muslims were present in this land. As history progressed, the early colonists fought bitterly for independence from England. After the establishment of the United States of America as an independent and democratic nation, a new struggle began. This time the struggle was within America. This was one of the darkest periods of American history, the growth of the slave trade.
Millions upon millions of Africans were transplanted to the New World. Scholars differ in their estimates of how many of those slaves were Muslims, but they all agree that the percentage is staggering. These Muslims who became reluctant Americans were stripped of their identity and their religion, as they were forced into bondage on American plantations.
The majority of slaves who came to North America came from places that were Muslim then and are Muslim today. Hundreds of millions of Africans, through the intervening decades and generations of enslavement in America, had their culture, their great noble history and legacy, their language, their religion systematically removed from them.
Over the decades, however, slaves began to lose their knowledge of their religion as well as their ability to practice their religion. Islam was replaced by the religion of the slave masters.
It was only in the early 1900s that African Americans began to research their African roots and discover their Muslim roots.
After enslavement, where you will find what John Hope Franklin calls the nadir, an Arabic word, a humble period, a low period for African American people, just out of slavery, reaching their lowest point in the social and economic development in America. And around this time, a man comes on the scene in the early 1900s, Marcus Mosias Garvey.
Proto-Islamic groups like the Marcus Garvey movement and the Moorish Science Temple, established by Timothy Drew Ali, appealed to thousands of African Americans who were trying to rediscover their lost heritage.
In that Garvey movement, we find a man, Elijah Poole, born in Georgia, who joins the UNIA, who we see pictures of him in the regalia, in the uniform of the UNIA. Later, in 1929, forms with the help of a man, Master Farad Muhammad, also known as Fred Dodd, also known as Wallace Dodd, W.D. Dodd Farad, forms with him what will become the organization that will be known as the Nation of Islam.
It is through the Nation of Islam that many African Americans discovered the universal, all-inclusive message of mainstream or Orthodox Islam. Most famous among these was Malcolm X.
Our rank on this earth, to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
Malcolm X, as a person who accepted the tenets of the Nation of Islam while in prison, but his pledge is that he will tell the truth about the condition of African American people and about the lies that have been told to them from the white majority. That message holds true for him through his evolution as a Muslim. That within the Nation of Islam, he was a radical speaker of truth about the condition of African Americans, which made him a hero, even though many people did not accept the theology of the Nation of Islam. Ultimately, Malcolm X's unyielding search for truth leads him to a broader understanding of the universal message of Islam. He performs a pilgrimage to Mecca and conveys back to the American people that Islam is a brotherhood of all races.
Malcolm X's legacy is an important one for American Muslims, as it is an inspiring story of how Islam and Malcolm's unyielding search for truth helped him see past racism and see humanity as a brotherhood. By remaining committed to justice and equality, African American Muslims contributed greatly to the civil rights movement in America. America had much to gain from their Islamic perspective.
African Americans were not the only Muslims in America. After World War II, changes in the United States immigration policy resulted in a large number of Muslims immigrating to America. In the mid-70s, following the death of his father Elijah Muhammad, W.D. Muhammad became the leader of the Nation of Islam. He accepted mainstream or Orthodox Islam and brought with him hundreds of thousands of African Americans to the larger American Muslim community. As more and more African Americans embraced the universal brotherhood of Islam instead of race-centered movements and the number of immigrant Muslims rose, Muslim communities began to form across America. Over the last few decades, American Muslims have established communities in every state in America.
It's fascinating to look at the American Muslim community because the American Muslim community is, in fact, international in a place like the United States. Well, when you look at the American Muslim community, you have, first of all, the two large groups, African American, if you will, indigenous Muslims, and then you have immigrant in second, third, and fourth generation. But ethnically, you've got Arabs, you've got South Asians, Southeast Asians, you've got Africans, you've got Central Asians, you've got Turks. So you've got an enormous diversity.
With such a diverse population of Muslims, it should come as no surprise that American Muslims have contributed to our great nation in a number of ways.
For many American Muslims who immigrated to the United States, it was American ideals, the principles America stands for, that inspired them to create a new life in the U.S.
One of the reasons why my father came to this country was, of course, like many immigrants, to live the American dream. And I think most immigrants heard of this great country, America, and the different things and different opportunity, and especially with the Industrial Revolution and Henry Ford and the number of job opportunities that were available. So I think like any other immigrant, they seeked an opportunity to advance themselves and left their homelands, even left my mom behind to come here for a better opportunity. And as it turns out, indeed, it was the promised land. So once he was established, he brought my mom over here and then began raising a family and worked for Ford Motor for 36 years.
American Muslims contributed to America as slaves, with their blood, sweat, and tears. American Muslims contributed to America by reminding our country of its own principles, of liberty and justice for all. American Muslims have contributed to America through their varied professions as doctors, teachers, architects, lawyers, and soldiers. American Muslims have also contributed to America by making the ultimate sacrifice, putting their lives in danger in order to protect their country.
Sometimes you'll come across people that will think that because you're Muslim, you're anti-American, or that you're not patriotic. We're extremely patriotic. My father served in the Coast Guard for 20 years. We love our country.
My grandfather from my mother's side served in World War II. He was actually a resident in Boston. That's where she was born.
That's where my family was from.
And he actually volunteered. He enlisted to fight with the Allies out of Boston. And he was actually wounded.
Throughout their long history with America, American Muslims have sacrificed and contributed a great deal to the benefit of our country.
As believers in the faith of Islam that teaches peace, brotherhood, and unity, and as citizens of a great nation that teaches democracy, equality, and justice, American Muslims live in harmony with their beliefs, their nation, and their neighbors.